We've been going around Fiji, essentially carrying out an information session on the budget. We've been holding budget consultations prior to the budget, but of course we've been requested by people to give them information after the budget has been delivered. This is what we are doing. This is the last stop. The last place we are visiting. After this we're stopping all the budget information sessions. And I'll very quickly do a quick presentation on the key features of the budget, what is involved, where the money is going to, where's the money coming from, etc. And then we'll open up the floor for any questions you may have. I understand some people have to leave by 4 o'clock, you've got buses to catch. Yes. We also have Wailesi draw. As you know that we've also allocated funding in this year's budget for all the FNU campuses in Fiji to be Wi-Fi hotspotted and free of charge. What that means is that your campuses, so this particular building, will be Wi-Fi hotspotted, so you can get faster speeds and bigger broadband, bandwidth, I should say. And as a result of that, you can, access through your phones, through any mobile device, access to internet services. And we've done that obviously because FNU campuses are funded completely by the Fijian government. We'll focus on the major expenditure initiatives, the major revenue, and of course the economic update. For example, things like debt. A lot of people talk about debt in Fiji without actually understanding what debt is. I'm also accompanied today by, normally we have the Permanent Secretary for Economy, Margareta Conrote, but she's not here, unable to make it today. But I've got Sherry Gounder, who's here, who's the head of fiscal policy in the Ministry of Economy, Kamal Gounder, who's in planning. We saw Talema Mbao, he's somewhere here, he's the head of budget. The day-to-day expenses of government and how it's spent by different ministries, and Pankaj Singh, who is also the head of debt. I'll speak fast so we can finish by 4 o'clock. So if I'm running too fast, let me know. So essentially this budget is building upon the focusing on Fijian families. You'll see a huge focus on Fijian families. We also have a continuation of government policies in respect of funding for infrastructure development, roads, water, electricity, education, social protection, things like social welfare, etc. And of course, we're building upon a very strong economic base. The economy has been growing for the past 9 years straight. And as a result of that, it's actually created 40,000 new jobs in the past 5 years. And I'll show you the slides relating to that. So the first expenditure, the new item. Any mother that gives birth to a child will get $1,000. How does that system work? Some of you may become mothers soon, hopefully not too soon. You become mothers. When you become a mother, for you to access the $1,000 is that you need to, for example, be somebody who earns less than $30,000 a year. You and your partner should be earning less than $30,000 a year. If you're a single mother, you must be earning less than $30,000 a year. What you need to do is register the baby. You need to go to the BDM office, Birth, Deaths and Marriages office. Register the baby. When you go there, it actually just only takes a couple of minutes to do so. You go there, you fill out the form. Your baby gets issued a TIN number, a tax identification number. If you don't have a TIN number, you will get a TIN number also. The baby has the TIN number for the rest of their life, right? So when they become an adult, they don't have to go and register, etc. And then you will also, in the form, you write which is your preferred bank. So if you say, for example, my bank is HFC, they'll simply give you a letter directing HFC to open an account. You walk down to the HFC bank, you give the letter to them, they'll open an account in the name of the baby. The baby, of course, now has a birth certificate in the name of the baby. The only person who can operate the account is the mother. So it's in the baby's name, but mother operates the account. You immediately can access $500 out of that $1,000. It's for your immediate, expenses related to the baby, buying diapers, etc. The second $500 you can only access once the child goes to year 1, class 1. Now, why have we done this? Obviously, we want to help people with low-income families. We want to help them. The second reason is also because we did a sweep of Fiji about 4 or 5 years ago. We found something like 24 to 25,000 Fijians actually did not have a birth certificate. The people as old as 45, 55 years old who actually did not have a birth certificate. So we need people to be registered. There are some people actually register their babies only when they're about to go to class 1. So we have long queues because people need birth certificates to send the children to school. So this way we obviously are getting people to register the children quicker. Now the other issue, of course, is this. The moment we open an account in the name of the baby, we're actually encouraging you to do some savings. Because in Fiji, we're not very good at saving money. So if you have an account under the baby's name, you can't touch the second $500. Hopefully when the baby turns 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, somebody gives some money for the baby, at the birthday, the mother will take the money, put it into the bank account. And we've also made an arrangement with the banks that the banks won't charge any service fees for the account, into the account for the next 6 years. But they will pay interest, so the money will actually grow in value. The next one, of course, is that we've now increased maternity leave from 84 working days to 98 working days. So mothers now get an additional 2 weeks maternity leave. Of course, this is paid leave. I mean, for obvious reasons, it makes sense for women to have a longer break if they're giving birth to a child. We've introduced two sets of new leaves, paternity leave and family care leave. Paternity leave is applicable for fathers of babies. They can now, if their partner or wife is about to give birth or has given birth, they can take 5 days paid leave. We want the fathers to become more involved in child rearing. They need to change the diapers and do things like that. Help the mother. Because a lot of support. Sometimes women do need support. They're in the hospitals by themselves and you need somebody around. So this is paternity leave. We also have family care leave. This is new leave. This essentially is for, if for example, I'm here and then, God forbid I hear that my son has had an accident. Now he's my young boy, he's only 7 years old, about to be 7 years old. Somebody will need to stay with him at the hospital. Somebody may need to stay with him, for the next couple of days at the hospital. So I'm entitled to take 5 days family care leave, and it's paid for also. Some of you may have elderly parents, you need to look after them, take them to the hospital, etc. So you can take those days off to look after your family. This is on top of, obviously, your annual leave, which is separate, on top of your sick leave. So you don't take family care leave if you fall sick. You fall sick, you take your sick leave, which you're entitled to. Somebody said to me, well, you're giving all these people new leaves. When will they work? So the whole psychology of it is that obviously not everybody can take paternity leave. It's only applicable to women, not to guys. Maternity leave. So paternity leave is only for fathers of children. And sick and family care leave is when somebody gets sick. The whole idea is that we're now giving, specific leaves for you. So when you're at work, hopefully you'll work 110%. Because you know that the law actually allows you to take all this leave. We also recognize that some employers, because they're going to pay you paternity leave and family care leave, they might find it a bit difficult, so we're giving them 150% tax deduction. When they pay you paternity leave, and they pay you family care leave, whatever amount of money, the full pay they pay you, they can claim it as 150% tax deduction from government. Education, this is the amount of money we've been spending in education. In 2004, they spent 270 million. This is where free education came into effect. This is where TELS came into effect. This is when toppers came into effect. In 2014, you can see the budget going up. Of course, the budget has been increasing because more and more of you are now in universities. More and more people are entering into primary schools and high schools. So the expenditure is going up. Unfortunately, this thing doesn't show you, but the amount of money we spend now here in this year's education is $1.035 billion. That's the total amount of money allocated for education sector this year. I'll show you how it's being spent. Ministry of Education gets $535.4 million out of that $1.035 billion. Ministry of Education pays, thank you, Ministry of Education obviously pays for the salaries of all the teachers. Every single teacher in Fiji, their salary gets paid by government. Your technical colleges gets paid through here. Free milk, free bus fares. The bus fares, we spend over $20 million in paying bus companies so you can get discounted travel on buses. So that money goes from there. Higher education institutions, there are two types of expenditure we have. We give FNU 100% operating grant. So they're renting this building, they're paying for your lecturers and tutors, all the staff, running the FNU. We give FNU $65.1 million a year to run FNU. FNU only about 3 years ago used to get about $43, $46 million. Now we give them $65 million because we recognize it's the only government funded university. We want to upgrade. We want you to become on par with USP. We want better lecturers, better qualified people so you get better education and a better accreditation for your courses. We give USP 33 million, University of Fiji 4.2, Corpus Christi 100,000, CATD 600, Fulton College. These are all the Colleges that we give money to, the one here, Sangam, they get about 200,000 of Sangam Institute that's based here in Vanuatu. You are the only university that gets a capital grant. Capital grant is what we give to build things. To build Labasa campus, you're getting $6 million next year. Obviously, we need to give more money in the following years. Nasinu campus being upgraded, FNU agriculture station is getting $4 million, Maritime Academy $5 million. We're spending $90 million this year alone in fixing up many of the high schools that have been damaged by cyclones. Something like 225 schools have been damaged. We already spent over $150 million. In the last 3 cyclones, Josie, Gita and Kenny. Schools in Kandavu got completely demolished. Even though these schools are run by faith-based organizations or committee-based schools, we actually build it for them. So we spent $90 million there. National toppers, $43.8 million this year we'll spend. Those of you who may be on the toppers, that's how much money is going there. TELS, this year alone is $205.6 million. Alone this year. Now TELS over here, of course, includes not just your university fees, but also those of you getting living allowance or book allowance, all those types of things. So those people who come along to you and say we'll make university for free, they're conning you, because nobody can afford it. We already have in excess of $700 million that's owed through the TELS system. Today, 25% of the Fijian population is below the age of 27. 40% is below the age of 70%, sorry, is below the age of 40. It's the other way around. 70% is below the age of 40. 50% is 27 years or younger. When you have a young population, what does it mean? It means we'll produce more babies. Young people produce babies. It's a fact of life. Old people like us don't. Young people like you do. So when you have a younger population, you have more opportunity of more babies being produced. It means more young people are going to come after you. A lot more young people. What does that mean? It means we have to ensure that every single young person in Fiji henceforth gets free early childhood education, gets free primary school, gets free high school, gets TELS, gets toppers. And in fact, we want to increase the number of toppers, which you'll see. So it's unsustainable to say it'll be free, but we've come up with some programs that will help you too. So toppers has increased from 630 to 950 scholarships. We've introduced 2 new scholarships. It's not applicable for you because you're already in university now. So there may be certain courses that are available, that are not available in Fiji, which people want to do. So for example, if your brother or sister or cousin or somebody in your neighborhood finishes year 13 and they say, I want to become an architect. I want to do architecture. Not a single university in Fiji offers an undergraduate study in architecture. USP doesn't, your university doesn't, nor does University of Fiji. So what we said, if people want to study in these areas, which are not available in undergraduate studies, we'll send them overseas. Only 20 positions will be available for that. So do architecture, town planning, clinical psychologists, customs, actuarial science, all these areas that are not available at undergraduate level. So the total number of toppers is 970. We're offering now what we call Civil Service Scholarship Scheme. These are for those people who are already teaching, teachers who are teaching already, but may have a diploma, but they don't have a degree. So we want to upskill them. So we're offering 30 positions for that. So in these areas though, in maths, physics, there's a shortage of maths and physics teachers in Fiji. If we don't address it now, we'll run out of maths and physics teachers. Maths, physics, English, information technology, industrial arts, special education, early childhood education. We'll also then give 20 awards for teachers who already have a bachelor's to get a master's. And again, we're paying for this. In my days when I was in Marist, for example, many decades ago, we had teachers who had masters in English who were teaching us. You now no longer get teachers with masters in high school, specializing in different areas. We want to actually reach that position. We want to attain that again. So again, we'll give postgraduate studies in the area of maths, physics, and English. We also have postgraduate scholarships, assuming that one of you may work in the private sector. So some of you may, for example, start working in the tourism sector. And if you work in the tourism sector, if you want to go get a master's, we can also give you a master's award too. And this 20 positions are reserved for civil servants and 20 for those outside. We also have 10 awards for PhD. Again, 5 for civil servants and 5 reserved for people from outside. So even if you come from the private sector, we'll actually offer that to you. We started, a scholarship scheme for people who are, disabled students. We have some of them at USP who are about to complete their courses. We'll give them the full allowances because they used to get allowances, but they weren't in alignment with what we are currently paying. Those people will receive TELS. We made a few changes to TELS. Excuse me. Under the current scheme, which we have now changed, previously if your family earned less than $25,000, then you're entitled to the TELS allowances, the living allowance and all of that. So now we've increased that to $50,000. So if your family earns up to $50,000, you can also get the TELS allowances. You're eligible for that now. Bus fare allowance has been increased to $30 a week for TELS students. And also we've got 30 places for graduates to get entry into MBBS. Some people have, for example, done an undergraduate study in science, and they've done pharmacy, and they've been working. If they want to now go off and become a doctor, we've got 30 places reserved for them because they'll get a lot of cross credits for those subjects. Sorry. Now, as I said, everybody has to pay TELS. And we've been working, on this formula for the payment of TELS. We've come up with a new scheme. Now, this is what we call an accelerated repayment initiative. So, assuming that you're doing a Bachelor of Education. If you do a Bachelor of Education and we pay your university fees through TELS, we're giving living allowance through TELS. We pay now up to $7,000 a year for living allowance, textbooks, etc., everything else. Your debt could be, say, about 30,000. Say if it's 30,000. And you only pay your TELS loan once you get a job. So assuming you finish your course like this year, you don't pay your loan until you start working. And when you start working, it gets automatically deducted through your tax system. And we cannot deduct more than 20% of what you earn. So assuming if you earn $30,000 a year, we can only deduct 20% of that. 20% of that is $6,000, on a monthly basis, whatever it works out to be. So it's not a lump sum $6,000, it's on a monthly basis. Many of you would not be in university today if it wasn't for TELS. Yeah? You would not be here. The reality is TELS has actually ensured people are gaining more place in university. Today we have more females in university than ever before. We have more females in high school than ever before. So the fact of the matter is, like I said, we need to have it on a sustainable basis. You need to be able to ensure that just because you receive TELS, it doesn't mean that the people coming after you don't get TELS also. It can only be done on a sustainable basis. So if you, for example, have a $30,000 debt, if you pay the $30,000, if you pay 50% of your $30,000 in 3 years or less, we write off the balance. So basically we forgive the debt. If you pay your $30,000 or 75% of it in 3 to 6 years, we write off 25%. If you pay 90% within 6 to 8 years, we write off 10%. The reason why we've done that is we've come up with some calculations. Assuming if you took, say, 15 or 20 years to pay it off, the dollar that you're going to give us in 15 years' time won't be the same value. If today I give you $1 and I come back and get $1 from you 5 years later, the value of the dollar you're going to give me is not going to be the same. So obviously we said if you pay us sooner, then we can use that money obviously to pay for other people. We are actually particularly concerned about the fact that many primary schools and high schools don't have the level of infrastructure that they should. There are many schools, for example, one will live with, they don't even have a science lab. They don't even have a computer lab. We want to do that. Of course, the politicians who are going around, they're not talking about it. They're only targeting you people because you vote. High school students don't vote. Primary school students don't vote. None of them are talking about high schools or primary schools. We are talking about the entire education system. So that's the formula we've come up with, and please, if you want any information, please let us know. We also have said in a few months' time, you'll get every 6 months a notification on your mobile phone as to how much money you owe. So you know how you get every quarter, you get disbursements. You'll know exactly what is your running debt. And if you think that what they paid you and what they're showing on your statement is incorrect, then you can, of course, get it reconciled. So these apps will all be made available. We've set up a new Ministry of Housing and Community Development. Many of you are young people. We want you to, as young people, once you get jobs, to buy a house very quickly. The rate of home ownership in Fiji is very low. Very few people own their own homes. And most people who actually do buy their homes, they buy it when they turn in their 30s or 40s. We want to create a new culture. So what we're trying to do is trying to give you assistance to buy or build your first home. But you also need to start thinking of a home in a different way, a different concept. Many people in Fiji think that if you say you're going to buy your first home, they think of a block of land and a house in the middle of the land. That's not the only way to own a home. We have also, you can own apartments. If you go overseas, many people, when they say they have a home, they actually have a 3-bedroom apartment, 2-bedroom apartment, 1-bedroom apartment, but it's your asset. You get a 99-year lease over there. But it's always cheaper to buy an apartment. So that could be a first home. You may be able to buy, for example, a 2-bedroom apartment that is yours, $60,000, $70,000. Now, if you're going to buy your first home from an approved developer, we'll actually give you $15,000 as a grant. You don't pay us back, it's a grant. You go to a bank, you simply go to a bank, the bank assesses your income, they say yes, you can do the repayment, and then you fill out the form, send it to the ministry, they'll approve it, you'll get $15,000 or $10,000. If you earn less than $50,000 a year. This is a new one that we've introduced for those people who earn between $50,000 and $100,000 a year. Because what we found is that nowadays, because of the teachers getting a pay rise, most teachers, for example, if they're married husband and wife, they get about $26,000 each. $24,000, $25,000, $26,000 each. So they automatically go above this income tax, this threshold here. So if you earn between $50,000 and $100,000, we give you $10,000 or $5,000, again, through the banking system. And I urge you to take advantage of it. A lot of people will be surprised because they don't own an asset, even when they start working, when they want to borrow $3,000, $5,000 and they go to the banks normally ask you, say, what asset do you have? For them to use as collateral, what you can use as security. A lot of people don't have it, they go to money lenders and they give them the ATM card, which is what we don't want, and you pay very high interest rates. We've also set aside $5 million if you want to buy a first piece of land. If you earn less than $50,000, you've seen a TLTB land subdivision. This is only for TLTB land and state land. You may see government advertising land, and they may say you pay $12,000, $15,000 up front. You buy the lease, then you do a monthly, yearly lease payments. So there may be, I know some Itauke land subdivision, or people are offering land for $12,000, $15,000 to buy the lease. We'll contribute $10,000 towards that. We won't give you the money, we'll pay TLTB on your behalf. You see, if you got state land, we pay lands department. Last year we started a scheme where, for example, people who are low-income people who got this grant, who got this grant, when they went and got a loan, the interest rate they paid was 5% or less. So what we're saying, those people and any new people, we will now pay 1% of the interest rate. So if you're paying at the moment 4.5% interest rate, you'll pay then only 3.5 because we'll subsidize directly to the banks on your behalf 1% interest rate. So it'll save you money. So for 3 years we lock in the interest rate. Because many people don't take a loan because they cannot afford the interest rate. We also have got some money set aside for a survey of lands. There are a lot of people, for example, who live in Vakavonua arrangements or where what we call agreement to lease, and they don't get a proper lease because the land has not been surveyed. We'll actually get the land surveyed for you. We pay the surveyors directly so you can get a proper lease. Ministry of Provincial Development used to have 1/3, 2/3 contribution for social housing. That's been now brought under Ministry of Housing and Community Development. And we're rolling out some new policies in that respect. And of course, we're formalizing a lot of the informal settlements. Now, at the moment, for example, one of you may have woken up in the morning and you don't feel too well. You've got the flu. Like I've got the flu at the moment. I went and visited a doctor last week in Suva. So if you say, well, I'm a student, I can't afford to go and visit a private doctor. So you want a doctor simply to check you out and maybe give you a prescription, antibiotics, etc. But the doctor over here may cost $15. Say, look, I can't pay $15 to go and see a private doctor. So everybody ends up at the hospital. And overseas, what actually happens, you don't go to the public hospital for that type of condition. You simply go to the local doctor, a private doctor, a GP. And that's what we're going to introduce from next year. From next year, January, before you come to university, you're feeling sick, you've got a head cold or you've got the flu, you can go and visit a private doctor and we'll pay for you. Now, how will we pay for you? Is that at the moment, for the past 30, 40 years, every single organization that employs people, they have to give 1% of the value of the salary and wages they pay the employees to FNTC. It's what they call the FNTC levy. We collect about $21 million a year. Our FNTC collects about $21 million a year from that. Now, most employers, the idea is when they pay the 1%, they can claim it back should they train their staff, etc. But most people don't collect it. So what have we said? So next year, if you, for example, go down and see a doctor, we'll pay for that, and that money will come from the FNTC levy. We're taking 50% of that $21 million to pay for your visit to the doctor. There are many places, like in Senganga, there's no private doctor in Senganga. There's no private doctor in Nasarawanga. There's no private doctor in Nambuwalu. So there'll be people, for example, sorry? Somebody say something? There'll be people, for example, who may be coming from Senganga or catching the bus just to come to Lautoka Hospital, Labasa Hospital, just for a visit. Maybe they've got a head cold. So if we, for example, set this up, you'll find that private doctors will actually go and set up in places like Senganga, because they know now that everybody will come to them. They're not going to go to the public health system. So in this way, we'll get more private doctors out into rural areas. Also, we have, for example, what we call the workers' compensation. At the moment, as the law stands, if, for example, one of the staff over here climbs up those stairs here and slips down the stairs and breaks their back, or maybe tumbles down and dies, or whatever the case may be, you have to have workers' compensation insurance. FNU has to have workers' compensation insurance. It takes long. Maybe the head of this school over here might say, no, I don't think we should pay out because he was a bit drunk. So it's contributory negligence. What do you call contributory negligence? That's all going to change from 1st of Jan next year. If you at work, you get injured, you get paid out. Whether you're drunk or not, you'll get paid out. The same thing, we have the third-party insurance. You know, we changed that. Before, for example, before we changed it from January this year, if you were standing by the side of the road and a driver comes along, he's drunk, he goes off the road, hits you, and you die or you become quadriplegic, you would not get paid out. Even if you wanted to make a claim, you have to go through the court system. There'll be lawyers involved. Now this all changed. We simply make the payout. So accordingly, for workers' compensation also, there are many employers in Fiji who don't have workers' compensation. When somebody dies at their work or gets injured, it takes years for them to get paid. So through a no-fault system, that will change from 1st of January next year. It's important for you because many of you will actually be working. So you need to know that now this is your right. So if you, for example, are working in the sawmill and your finger gets chopped off because you put it in the mill and accidentally, you'll get a payout. So if you're right-handed, you get paid more for your right finger because that's your hand that you use. Obviously, there'll be less amount for the left finger. That's the way the system works. We've extended insurance to social welfare recipients. Today we have insurance for cane farmers, copra farmers, dairy farmers, rice farmers, basic insurance. So we introduced this for social welfare recipients. For somebody, for example, who's on social welfare, obviously if I'm on social welfare because I'm living on the poverty line, if I get social welfare, if my house burns down, where will I go? They'll obviously come running to government. So you can't anticipate all these costs. So what we're going to do is insure all these people. Once they're insured, the house burns down, they immediately get payout $3,000. Also upon death, $3,000. $1,000 for funeral expenses, $3,000 for personal injury. And we've also covered civil servants in this. Excuse me. We are we're also developing some insurance for home products before the cyclone season, and also for crop insurance. Again, this is very, very important. As you know, we had Cyclone Winston. We paid out $125 million in just funding people to get hardware. It's never been done before, but we did it. Cyclone Josie and Kenny, we paid out $110 million. We cannot continue to do this. So what we're doing is we're getting insurance products for that. Excuse me. We're pumping in about $40 million into the ICT sector. Sorry. So digital government transformation. So on these phones now, you can watch free-to-air television. It's here. Last time I was in Labasa, I was doing the World Cup time. The taxi driver stopped me at the airport. Said, "Oh, thank you very much. I'm watching the World Cup whilst I'm waiting for my customers." You can watch free-to-air television on your phones now. Download it. It's one of the most popular applications on Google. Or App Store. Sorry, not Google, App Store. Already 80,000 people have downloaded it. You can do that. So if you're going home on the bus now and you want to watch the news, they said, "Oh, The TV cameras were here. Let's see if my photo came out on that, so you can watch the news on the phone. Of course, we've got various government apps now that's available. Very soon you'll be able to register babies on the phone. We do title searches. You can do company searches. All of that will be available on the phone. Of course, now you can watch wirelessly too. It's available all the way right down the southern tip of Lau, Rotuma, Dikumbia, even Vanuatu. You can either catch it by a simple aerial, or you need a dish. If all you need is a set-top box. The set-top box we give for free if you earn less than $30,000 a year. Wirelessly television gives you 8 channels free of charge. Unlike Sky, you don't have to go and pay a monthly subscription. Once you get the box, that's it, 24/7. Of course, free Wi-Fi hotspots from all university FNU campuses. I think it's 24 campuses that we are funding. I saw somebody, a former university staff, said, "Oh, what a big deal. We've had it before," which is a lot of nonsense. You download this app now, you'll see the speeds. In fact, in many of the larger campuses, we've actually had to put many of the, the transformers and respondents to ensure that we get in a faster speeds. This is very important for us. Now, most of you have an ATM card. You've got a bank account, you have an ATM card. When you, for example, go to the shop and you want to, say, buy groceries, right? If you buy groceries, say $50 worth of groceries, and you don't use cash, you use the card. When you swipe your card, that machine is called a POS machine. POS stands for point of sale machine. When you swipe your card to pay for the groceries, say you buy $50 worth of groceries, as soon as you swipe your card, the bank charges you 40 cents fee. And at the same time, they charge the shopkeeper or the merchant 30 cents. So for each transaction, the bank makes 70 cents. So then my money from my Aiyaz account goes to the shopkeeper, say Westpac account. Now, I can go to a shop in New Zealand and I can buy, what is this? Oh, I can buy this in New Zealand with a card. In Fiji you can't. They say minimum sale $10. Otherwise they won't let you use the card. So what we are trying to do is we're trying to get more shops to actually have ATM machines, or the point of sale machines, sorry, and for you to use more of your card. Now, so we made an arrangement with the banks. From the 1st of Jan next year, when you go and use your card on the point of sale machine, there won't be any fees. You no longer will pay 40 cents. So it'll be free for you. The merchants at the moment, we're saying they'll pay 30 cents. We're looking at working on some form of subsidy, so we reduce the cost for the merchants also. In that way, we'll have more shops that'll have the ATM cards. Then you'll be able to buy your goods less than $10 on the ATM card. Hopefully one day, very soon, you'll be able to buy this bottle of water with your ATM card, or buy your Chinese lolly, whatever you buy, on your card. Okay? Now, it's very important for us, because from a safety perspective, when you carry cash, obviously you can drop it, you can get robbed or whatever. With the card, it doesn't really, sorry. Oh, you want to use it. So with the card, you don't actually, have to use the cash. Now, there are a couple of reasons why we want this done. Now, when I actually pay for the transaction, I pay my $50 from my ANZ account, it immediately goes into his Westpac account. Now, assuming every person that came to his shop and bought all their groceries from his shop on the card, guess what he doesn't have to do? He does not have to do any banking. He doesn't have to take the cash and bank the cash. It's already banked immediately into his account. So it saves him money. The safety issues also then gets enhanced. The second issue is this: when we pay for transactions without physically using money, we simply transfer from account to account, the cash remains in the banks. When there's more cash in the banks, assuming this young lady wants to go and borrow some money, the interest rate for her would be lower because the cash is in the banks. But if people physically take out money, then the cash reserves in the bank will be lower. So when she wants to go and borrow money, the interest rate will go up. So by using or having transactions within the banking system without physically taking out the money, we are leaving more cash. That means the cost for you to take out a loan will be a lot cheaper, which obviously is beneficial. So a lot more people can get more loans at a cheaper rate. We've got some funding, so we're going to subsidize POS machines. The cost of one POS machine is about 500 Australian dollars. It's about 750 Fijian. Now, so we said that for some of the shops that want it, we'll actually subsidize the cost for them. Health services, we can see that we've increased health funding to $382 million this year. Labasa Hospital, if you see in the budget, is getting funding for about $1.75 million to upgrade Labasa Hospital. We've said if you go to the kidney center over here in Labasa, if you earn less than $30,000 a year, we'll pay 50% of the kidney dialysis cost for each visit you go. And of course, free medicine will continue, but with the pharmacies now stocking the goods and their invoices. We're setting up a public-private partnership for Lautoka and Ba hospitals. At the moment, a lot of people have politicized kidney dialysis, but there's only about 600 people who need access to kidney dialysis machines. That's what Dr. Krishnan, who is the only nephrologist in Fiji. Nephrologist is the person who specializes in kidneys. That's what he's told us. So there are more people, however, in Fiji dying of heart attacks. What do you call heart attack in Fiji? Cardiovascular problems. If any one of us at the moment in this room has a heart attack now, there's not a single Fijian doctor that can carry out open heart surgery in Fiji. Not a single Fijian doctor can do that. So everybody has to go to Australia, New Zealand, India, wherever it is. So that's a sad state to be in. And the reason why that has happened is because for decades there has been no investment in our doctors. We've now increased their salaries by 80%. Some of them received salaries in excess of 100% increase. We want them to stay here. If you now become a doctor and if you want to do postgraduate studies at FNU, we actually pay for it. It's free because we want more specialized doctors. It was interesting. I went to India about 18 months ago with the Minister for Health and also the PS for Civil Service, and we're trying to get specialist doctors. So there's a worldwide shortage of doctors. So when you actually talk to doctors, you say, look, we may need a specialist doctor in Labasa. They ask you, apart from salary, they ask you things like, what's the nightlife like in Labasa? Do you have a cinema? Is there a theater? Is there international school for my children? You know the answer that I can give about Labasa. You guys at the moment don't even have a cinema. Hopefully you'll be getting one soon. But the fact of the matter is this, that we need to be able to upskill our people very quickly. We cannot do that without outside assistance. So we're setting up PPP for Lautoka and Ba. There are certain conditions. They'll join to do a JV with FNPF. Shiri and I and the PS were in India a week and a half ago. We met with various Indian companies. They're keen to come in. We hopefully will choose somebody very soon. There are certain conditions. If they come in and set up and run Lautoka and Ba hospitals, there must be 24/7 open heart surgery facilities available. So one of you has a heart attack in Labasa, you don't have to go to India or Australia, New Zealand. You can go to Lautoka and get it done there. Also, one of the conditions is that they need to provide, for example, chemotherapy, oncology for people with cancer. A lot of people, women, excuse me, who actually have breast cancer, cervical cancer, and various other cancers we've got. So that treatment should be done actually in Fiji too. The other condition is they need to put up a new wing at Lautoka Hospital, put up new theatres, and there are certain conditions that the operating theatres that they build, they must have viewing areas so people can actually see when people are carrying out surgeries. In that way we can train our doctors a lot quicker. Agriculture, we continuing with our funding for the sugar industry, of course. We set up a sugar stabilization fund. As you know now, the EU for decades gave Fiji and many African countries and Caribbean countries what we call an easy access into the EU market, subsidized rates. They announced about 10 years ago that the subsidies will all go off, so we're subject to world market price. What we said, we set up a stabilization fund. So the government has said the sugarcane farmers will get $85 per ton for the next 3 years. So for example, if next year FSC gets only $60 a ton, the farmers in Fiji will still get $85. Where will the balance of the $25 come from? It will come from the stabilization fund, which we've set up through Ministry of Sugar and also FSC. The following year, for example, they get $95 a ton. They'll still get $85 a ton. That $10 will go back into the stabilization fund to ensure that if the following year it drops again, then they get the funding for it. This is very important. Over here, the issue, what we are saying is that, I know some people have come along and said, don't worry, we'll give you $100 a ton. That's not of the main importance. The main importance is your input cost. You can get $100 a ton, but if it costs you $90 to produce that ton of cane, your margin is only $10. You can get $85, but if your production of the ton of cane is $40 and you're making a margin of $45. Right? So these things are very, very important to understand. We increased the budget for Ministry of Agriculture, $96.8 million. Also building a local goat meat industry, $1 million. You can ask me questions on that. But we're trying to essentially get, you know how you have chicken now. A lot of you, when you eat chicken, you don't go and kill a chicken and pluck the feathers yourself. You can buy the frozen chicken. Right? So what's the similar thing we want to do for the goat meat industry? Create an industry around it. If tomorrow Crest Chicken shuts down, and also to a lesser extent Rooster Poultry, you won't have any frozen chicken. You want to start a frozen meat industry for the goat meat industry also. Civil service reforms is continuing. We're paying performance management salaries. They will be backdated to 1st of August. Itauki Affairs Board and provincial councils. These people aren't technically civil servants, but we've actually brought up the salaries in alignment with Ministry of Civil Service. In alignment with civil servants. So they had a pay rise, and for which we had to make some allocations for. Very quickly, STT and ECAL. This is a tax you pay when you go and stay at a hotel, or you go and watch a movie, or you rent a car, or you eat at an expensive restaurant, or you go and drink beer at a nightclub or a pub. That's the only time you pay STT and ECAL. By law, when we put this thing in place, we put in place a new law to say that any money that's collected from STT or ECAL stands for Environment Climate Adaptation Levy, that we have to spend every single cent in climate related matters and climate adaptation measures. So we collected $150 million from STT and ECAL last year. So every single cent here is accounted for. This year we expect to collect about $170 million. You can get these brochures. We've got this outside there for you. It's also available on the website. But what we're saying, if your business earns less than $1.25 million, you don't have to pay STT or ECAL if you go there. So if you have a small pub in Labasa that does not make more than $1.25 million, if you're going to drink beer there, you don't pay STT and ECAL. Okay? If you open a small motel or hotel, then you don't actually have to pay that STT and ECAL, as long as the business makes less than $1.25 million a year. As I said, 150% tax deduction for paternity and family care leave. If you start working for somebody and then they send you for training, any expense they incur as a result of them sending you for training, they can actually claim as 150% tax deduction. If you work for a company, or if you have your own company that does research and development in ICT and renewable energy, they get a 250% tax deduction. We've just landed a cable in Sabu Sabu. This is the submarine cable that's landed in Sabu Sabu. What that will mean once it gets commissioned, overall in Vanuatu, the internet speed will increase by 100%, and the bandwidth will also significantly increase by 100%. And what we want to do is obviously eventually run a fiber optic cable from Sabu Sabu to Labasa. What this means, you have the opportunity to set up more ICT businesses in Vanuatu. We like you to stay in Vanuatu. We want more Viti-level people to come here too. There are lots of land, a lot of opportunities, and we want Vanuatu to obviously grow too. So what we've done, we've increased the incentives in the ICT sector also. If any of the buildings in your town that's down, that needs renovation, if they invest $1 million, they'll qualify for 25% deduction. For the first time in Fiji, we'll be hosting the Asian Development Bank meeting. It's a big deal for us. It's never been held in the Pacific, and it's never been held in the Pacific before. So there'll be something like 4,500 people that will come to Nandi for just 1 week. A lot of dignitaries, a lot of companies, a lot of countries, a lot of organizations will be there. If anybody wants to contribute towards that, if they contribute $10,000 or more, they get 150% tax deduction. If any of the companies buy electric buses, they get a 55% capital deduction. We ourselves are working with the Asian Development Bank to get more electric, not more, but get electric buses in Fiji. And also electric charging stations, they get tax incentives too, if they invest in that. These fruits are not grown in Fiji. Most of these vegetables aren't even grown in Fiji. The duty on that used to be 32%. We reduced the duty to 15%. Then we reduced it to 5%. From this year's budget, there's 0% duty now on these things. So you'll see the price of these things come down very soon. We also reduced the duty on tea. Tea, the tea that you drink, that I'm about to drink, it's 5% duty. Now it's gone to 0% duty. We put an excise duty on carbonated drinks, your fizzy drinks that you drink. And so what we said was that there'll be a new tax on it. But what we found, a lot of the businesses started bringing in cheap carbonated drinks from overseas. In order to stop that, got $2 per litre a specific duty rate on it, so the price will go up. We want you to drink less carbonated drinks. You'd be surprised how many young people are getting their feet and their toes cut off because of diabetes. Amputations are taking place. We have a high rate of diabetes in Fiji. And please don't give it to your children. If you give it to your children, they develop a taste for it. By the time they hit the 20s, they might lose a part of their body because of diabetes. Of course, the duty on cigarettes and alcohol has gone up by 15%. Plastic bags, as you know, the levy has gone up from 10 cents to 20 cents, started on the 1st of August. The reality is if you go down to the market here and you buy your chorreya or your bele or whatever it is, they put it, or the cassava, they put it in the plastic bag, they don't charge you money. Because there's no levy when you buy stuff from the market. But there's levy when you buy it from the shops, the supermarket, the pharmacies, etc., or the service station. Levy's gone up, ladies and gentlemen, because plastic is a big problem. It not only makes the place look dirty, people burn it, it puts toxic fumes in the air, it's bad for your health, and also, of course, it clogs up drains. So you are now given a 2-year warning from 2020, From 2020, we'll be banning plastic bags completely. So you go to the market, you take your jholi, you know those bags? The sacks, the reusable bags that people used to make out of sacks, etc. When I was a kid, when we used to go to the market, we didn't have plastic bags. We had those jollies. We brought about a law a few years ago that if you wanted to bring in second-hand cars, that it cannot be any older than 5 years, because the older the car, the more fuel it consumes, less efficiency, more carbon footprint. So we said you've got to bring in cars that are 5 years or younger. But what we found, a lot of the car dealers, what they were doing, they bring in cars that were like 4 years and 11 months old, 4 years and 10 months old. So in order to incentivize them to bring in younger cars, we've said if you bring in cars that are 2 years or younger, instead of paying 32% duty, you'll pay 15% duty. If you taxis also, instead of paying 15%, they'll pay 7.5%. Now, this is the size of the economy in 1970, only $200 million. Went up to 1 billion, 2 billion, 3.6, 5.6. Today we're sitting at $11.3 billion. You can see it's taken only 10 years for the economy, the size of the economy to double. So we've become wealthier as a country overall. More people have now more cars, you have more access to goods and services than ever before. It's because we have 9 years of consecutive growth. We've never had this before. Fiji for the last 9 years has been continuously growing. We've had periods of growth previously. Only twice it grew for 7 years in a row. But other times it may have grown for 1 year or 2 years, then it drops down into negative growth. Now the result of this, and I'll tell you what the result is before I go on to the next slide. See, this is where the economy has been growing, 9 years. This is very modest sum. Why? Because it's Cyclone Winston. Cyclone Winston cost us $1.3 billion of our GDP. That's how much of a devastation it had. Now, if you imagine if Winston had not occurred, this line would have been much longer. We are now projected to grow for another 3 years, of course. That's because of the consistency in government policies. In fact, I would venture to say it'll continue to grow for the next even more than 3 years, but the reason why we put 3 years because that's normally we project out only for 3 years. Now, as a result of this, 40,000 new jobs have been created in the last 5 years. Unemployment rate has dropped to 4.5%. This is the number of job advertisements in the Fiji Times and Fiji Sun. You can see how it's grown. Over here, these green lines show new memberships in FNPF. Those of you who are currently not working, as soon as you get a job, they'll ask you you get a new FNPF number. The moment you get a new FNPF number is because you've joined the workforce. So that's one way of measuring how many people have joined the workforce. In 2017, 20,795 people joined FNPF. 2016, 20,553 people joined FNPF. These blue lines show people who withdrew their funds. You know, people who retired, they withdraw their funds. So ladies and gentlemen, the result of this is this. Unemployment coming down, more jobs being created. So it is in your interest to ensure that we have consistency in policies. As you have consistency in policies, you'll find that more and more jobs will be created. Economic growth will continue to grow. But if you start chopping and changing policies, that's when it leads to a lack of confidence in the economy. A lot of people talk about inflation. You have to understand, all of you in this room eat roti, You eat gulgula, you eat bambakau, panikeke, cakes, corn, all of these things. What are these things made out of? They're made out of flour. What is flour made out of? It's made out of wheat. Do we grow wheat? No. There are only two companies in Fiji that make flour. Punja and Sons, FMF. They buy their flour from Australia. If Australia sells wheat to them at $1,000 a ton, that's the price they have to buy it at. As soon as they bring the wheat to Fiji, they make the flour, then we immediately price control it, because we price control a lot of food items. So they say, look, we bought it for $1,000 a ton. It cost us, we use this much electricity, this much labor, and this is the margin that we want. So the Fijian Competition and Commerce Commission will set the rate. They say, okay, you can make only 3% margin. Then they sell it to the supermarkets. When it comes to the supermarkets, then we price control it at that level too. So the supermarkets will say, look, we brought the flour. So price in Vanu Levu is higher than Viti Levu, because the supermarkets have to bring it by boat. So they say, look, we bought it from Punja and Sons at $1,200 a ton, for example. And now it costs us this much in freight. We have to store it in our warehouse. We pay this much electricity, Then the Commerce Commission will say, okay, you can sell it at this price. They price control it. They don't allow them to charge whatever price they want. So the point of the story is this, that we price control items as soon as they land in Fiji. We cannot price control what we buy it at. Same thing with fuel. Price of fuel, we simply have to take the price. But as soon as the fuel lands in Vunda, which is where the fuel comes, in Latoga, the fuel companies want to sell it, then we say to them, no, you can only make this much margin. That's price control. We price control rice. We price control cooking oil. All the basic food items, we actually price control. But the point again is, if the price of fuel goes up, we cannot do anything about it. The price of fuel a few months ago was $38 a barrel. Today the price of fuel is $63 a barrel. No control over it. Except when it lands, then we say, okay, this is the margin you can make. If you notice, any of you who are studying economics would notice that the price of fuel in Fiji generally goes up when there's a winter in the northern hemisphere. When the Europeans and the North Americans are getting cold, they use a lot of fuel. Gas, fuel, run the generators, so the price of fuel goes up because the demand goes up. We simply have to go along with it. But we put a margin on it as soon as it lands. When it's summer there, the price of fuel will come down. If there's a war in the Middle East, the price of fuel may go up. Depends what Donald Trump is saying tomorrow. It affects the price of fuel. The other thing that we cannot control, of course, is when you have a cyclone. After Cyclone Winston, a small bunch of bananas in Suva that usually cost $5 cost $20. Because all the banana trees fell down. No more bananas. Yongona was $200 a kilo. Used to be $75, $80 a kilo before Cyclone Winston. Today it's still $140 a kilo. Some people still drink it at the same rate. Right? So when they measure inflation, they take what we call everyday usage of goods. So the inflation rate in 2015 was 1.6%, out of which 0.6 came from alcohol, tobacco and kava. Look at 2017. Inflation rate was 2.8%, of which 2% came from alcohol, tobacco and kava. The other things were only 0.8. So you can see how much of a skewed difference it can make if one particular product becomes very expensive. Of course now, as of June, is 4.6, 2.9 because the price of fuel has doubled in the last few months. A lot of people don't understand foreign reserves. Foreign reserves is very critical. Now, nearly everything that we have, we buy from overseas. I'll pick on somebody. This young lady here. She's wearing a watch. She's wearing jeans. She's probably got gel in her hair. All of these things come from overseas. Every single thing. These tiles are made in Fiji. This pointer that I'm holding is not made in Fiji. This mic is not made in Fiji. Most of the clothes you're wearing is not made in Fiji. Some of it may be sewn in Fiji, but the material all comes from overseas. All the cars you see on the road, all of them come from overseas. When you buy these things, they don't sell it to us in Fijian dollars. They sell it to us in Japanese yen, US dollars, Aussie dollars, euros. That's what they sell it to us at. So in order for us to trade as a country, you need foreign reserves. This over here is the number of months. International benchmark says that you should have at least 4 months worth of foreign reserves to be seen to be healthy. If you drop below that, you seem to be unhealthy. Your trading potential is diminished. Some countries, when they don't have enough foreign currency, people, you know, they layman's term, they say, oh, that country is going bankrupt because they can't trade anymore. 2006, we had only $515 million. Today, we have $2.16 billion. That's the amount of foreign reserves we have. But what is really interesting is this, very quickly. You see, in 2010, we had $1.3 billion foreign reserves. If you take the line across, it's about 4.8 months worth of trading. So at $1.3 billion, it was 4.8 months worth of trading. At $2.1 billion, which is almost double, we have only 5 months worth of trading. Why? Because we are buying more things from overseas. As people get more money in their pocket, as we get wealthier, people demand for more things. Civil servants got a pay rise. Today, somewhere, somebody in Fiji is getting connected to the electricity grid. The moment you get connected to the electricity grid, what do people do? They go and buy a fridge. They buy a TV. They buy a stereo. They buy a phone they can charge. They may buy a washing machine or maybe a microwave. They buy a stereo. None of these things are made in Fiji. If I get a pay rise or I pay less tax, maybe I feel happy and I go and buy my wife a bottle of perfume. Even the perfume is not made in Fiji. So as we get more money in our pockets, we want to buy things. As you start working, you start buying things. You'll buy most of the stuff you'll buy will be from overseas. It'll put pressure on our foreign reserves. So you have to be careful about that, but we're in a healthy position as we speak. A lot of people in Fiji talk about debt without understanding debt. Everybody seems to have become an expert on debt in Fiji. So, too much debt. There are two ways of measuring debt. One is as a percentage of your GDP. The other one is what you call a dollar value of your debt. Now, debt is relative. Let me explain that. If this lady here, again, the one who bought all the stuff from overseas, if this lady is earning, say, $100,000, and she has a debt of $10,000. So you would say that 10% of her wealth is in debt, right? 10 over 100,000, 10,000, 100,000, 10%. This young man may be earning $10,000. But unfortunately for him, he may have a $20,000 debt. Right? He has $20,000 debt. So his debt to GDP ratio is 200%. He has got more debt than actual money he makes. Or even if she had a debt of $20,000 and she makes $100,000, her debt is 20% of her wealth. And if he makes $10,000 and his debt is $7,000, right? It's 70% of his wealth. But his debt is far lower than hers. She has a $20,000 debt, but it's only 10% of her wealth. Or 20% of her wealth. His is 70%, even though the amount he owes is much lower. So debt is relative to the amount of money you make. Obviously, a person who's making $30,000 cannot, the bank will say, I'm not going to give you a $750,000 loan. But a person who's maybe making $500,000 and $750,000, the bank will easily give him a $750,000 loan. As a percentage of our GDP, because we've been becoming wealthier, our percentage, the debt is coming down. You can see it's about 47%. If Winston had not occurred, this line would have been much shorter. In the dollar value, our debt today is $5.1 billion, Fijian dollars. That's our debt. Now, let me explain something to you very quickly. When Fiji became independent, the Ratu Mara government borrowed money. Most governments in the world borrow money. It's not a big deal. Because government is not a business. Government is a government. We provide services. So generally we collect money and we also spend money. Most governments in the world spend more than what they collect. Because if we were to do that, if we were to collect more than what we give out, most of the services you have, we won't be able to fund this university. We won't be able to provide electricity. You'll see over here, I'll show you later on, to connect to some village, there may be only 10 people living there, it may cost us $200,000. If we were running a business, we won't do it, because those people, if it's going to cost us $200,000 to connect the village, and there's only 10 people living there, for example, they won't pay $200,000 back. Even if they pay the electricity tariff, they won't even pay $200,000 in the next 10 years. But we have to connect them, because that's our job as a government, to connect them. because we need these people to have access to basic services. If you go to most people in Fiji today who don't have access to electricity, they want electricity, and we have to provide it to them. So the Ratu Mara government borrowed money. Then, of course, after Ratu Mara government, we had Dr. Bavandra government, unfortunately for only 4 weeks. And he was removed by Rambuka in 2 coups in 1987. So Dr. Bavandra government has to pay the debt of the Ratu Mara government, and they may have incurred debt themselves. Then the Rambuka government came in. Rambuka government then incurred debt, but they have to pay the debt of the Bavandra government and Ratu Mara government. Then you had the Chaudhry government. The Chaudhry government incurred debt, and they have to pay the debt of the Rambuka government, the Bavandra government, and the Ratu Mara government. Then you had the Garase government. They came in. They borrowed money. And they have to pay the Chaudhry government debt, Rambuka government, Bavandra government debt, and the Ratu Mara government debt. Then you had the Beni Marama government debt. They borrowed money, they have to pay everybody else's debt. By this stage, the probably Ratu Mara government debt is paid off, because normally the government debt is for about 30 years. Then of course after the Beni Marama government, you have the Fiji First government debt. They incurred debt and pay off everybody else's debt. When the Beni Marama government was appointed in 2007, there was a debt already of $2.8 billion from the previous governments. That was a debt the Beni Marama government inherited. They of course have incurred their own debt of $3.3 billion. You add those two up, you get $5.16 billion. So you have to understand that debts are cumulative. But the good thing in Fiji is that all governments have paid other governments' debts. Because when we go and borrow money, the people we borrow money from, they don't look at you as a Ratu Mara government or Garase government or Rambuka government or Beni Marama government. They look at you as the Fijian government. Our debt is continuing. Right? So we have to pay everybody else's debt. And the good thing is we never defaulted on any of our debts. Some governments in other parts of the world have defaulted on loans. Now, what do other countries look like? So just look at this. Debt to GDP ratio is 47%. This is a better way of measuring debt. This is what we call the dollar value of the debt. Japan's debt to GDP ratio is 239.2%. Singapore is 112%. United States is 107.4%. That's the most debt-ridden country in the world. Canada, 92.3%. Nobody in Fiji says, oh, these countries have huge levels of debt. Most of them want to go and migrate there. Only some people want to talk about debt in Fiji without understanding it. These are the other countries. You look at the debt levels. Fiji sits here at 47%. What is it in dollar terms? A lot of people want to know about the dollar terms. Japan's total debt is US $11.8 trillion. That's the level of debt in dollar terms. Singapore, $332.7 billion. United States, $19.9 trillion. That's their debt. Now, what is really interesting is this. You see, USA debt is 19.9 trillion, about $8 trillion more than Japan, but as a percent of GDP, it's lower than Japan. Why? Because the Japanese economy is smaller. You know that example I gave you. When you have smaller economy, smaller wealth, when you have more debt, then of course the percent of GDP is higher. Fiji sits here, $4.75 billion, which is US dollars, which equates to about 5.1 billion Fijian dollars. Now, you can Google this, it's all available. Just simply type, government debt and you'll find it. It's all there in the index. And they've ranked all the countries. Now, this country is interesting. Mauritius, similar to Fiji, sugar-based, was tourism-based. They did something that we are doing, but they did their stuff on a much grander scale. They decided to invest in roads, bridges, jetties, electricity, water, connected everybody's 4-lane roads everywhere. But then what they did was, they said we got to get out of the economic framework that we're in. They have one advantage that we don't have. They're very close to the fastest growing continent in the world, which is Africa. But what they did, they subdivided land, they gave land for free to international companies, or gave it at very reasonable rates, and they said, look, come and be based in Mauritius to service Africa. And as you know, most people, they want to go to Africa, but they feel a bit unsure. It's all diseases, Ebola, maybe civil war, but they know there's money to be made. So a lot of them set up their base in Mauritius to service Africa. They went to India, got these Indian companies to set up their hospitals. They went to the Africa and said, don't go to open heart surgery to India, don't go to Europe, come to Mauritius, get your open heart surgery done here, other surgeries done here, and by the way, you can have a holiday in our resort after that. and it's worked well. But they borrowed very heavily. They did a fantastic airport, etc. 7.5 billion US dollars, about 15 billion Fijian dollars. Debt to GDP ratio 62.7. That's what you call good debt. You're spending debt in a productive manner. If we, for example, borrowed money, we've got a hill up here in Labasa and we put up a large big convention center at a cost of $50 million. And we use it only once a year. It's not good spend of debt. But if we actually borrow money to build electricity, put a number 1 Draketi road, it's improving the productive capacity. That's what you call good debt. Recently, Rambuka said that Fiji is going to be taken over by the Chinese and they're going to take over our ports and all that. It's all nonsense. It's quite a stupid statement to make. It's very irresponsible. When governments borrow money, we don't give a mortgage. If I go to the bank now, I want to borrow money to build a house or buy a house, the bank will take a mortgage over my house. Because I'm a natural person, individual person. Because I can take off. If I don't do my loan repayment, when they have a mortgage, they can seize my house, sell my house, get their money back. When governments borrow money, they don't mortgage their country. They don't mortgage anything. So, we simply are taking out what we call a sovereign debt. These are the people we owe money to, overseas. Asian Development Bank, 348.5 million. International Fund for Agricultural Development, 2.2 million. World Bank, 148.6 million. Japan International Cooperation Agency, 11.5. Exim Bank of China, 516. Global Bond, $416.2 million. Normally, we like to keep our debt split. So 70% of all the money we borrowed is borrowed from people in Fiji. 30% is money borrowed offshore. So at the moment, in fact, 29.7% of our total debt is what we call external debt, which is up here. Now, Exim Bank of China, the last time we borrowed money from them was in 2012. Prior to the Bainimarama government being appointed, there was a small debt owed to the Exim Bank of China, which the Garase government borrowed to build the ICT building in Suva. Then there were 7 projects for which the Bainimarama government borrowed money from the Exim Bank of China, and I'll tell you what they are. The number 1 Draketi tar sealing of the road, the Buddha Bay Road, Sawane Seria Road in Naitasiri, Singatoka Valley Road in Singatoka, of course, on the West Bank, Moto Road in Ba, we built a very big bridge, a nice bridge, and tar sealed roads. Then public rental housing, Rewai, and the subdivision of housing authority in Tadirua Heights. That's what the money is borrowed for. It's only $516 million. And of course, we did not say to the Chinese, when you tar seal number 1 Draketi Road, you can, if we don't pay the loan, you can take over the road. It's silly to do that. So that's our debt situation. This is very interesting. Coming to the end of the slideshow. From 1980 to 2006, 27 years, or whichever government was there, they spent $3.5 billion in capital expenditure. What is capital expenditure? Capital expenditure is when you spend money to build things, as opposed to your operating expenditure. Operating expenditure is your day-to-day expenses. Now, they spent $3.5 billion, but the debt increased by $2.6 billion. From 2007 till now, we've spent $7 billion, which is double that amount, but our debt has increased by $2.3 billion. The reason why that has happened is because of this. For every dollar they spend in capital expenditure, they borrowed 76 cents. We are borrowing only 36 cents. Why? Because we have savings. Last year we saved $850 million. This year we'll save $1 billion. The reason why we've done that is because we're running government in a smarter way. So the way that's calculated is that we collect money in taxes, then we have our day-to-day operating expenses. We've come here, our FNU operating expenses, the running of the country day-to-day. That's what you call operating expenses. When you take our revenue minus our operating expenses, we get the savings. You can see how the other governments were saving before. So when we have the savings, then this savings here, then we start building things for capital expenditure. So you say, okay, FNU campus needs to be built in Labasa. We need to do this particular highway. We need to build a bridge. We use this money first. Then we go and borrow money. So we're borrowing less, but we're building more infrastructure. In the same way, for example, if I want to buy a house, If I've got a savings of $50,000 and the house costs $100,000, I'll borrow only $50,000. But if I have a savings of $20,000, I'll borrow $80,000 from the bank because my savings is lower. This shows that we spend about 40% of our budget in capital expenditure. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's focused on Fijian families. We build upon previous budgets. In fact, we gave the clue for this budget about 2 budgets ago. And in fact, if you look at this budget more carefully, we're giving clues as to what we'll include in the next few budgets. The economy is growing. It's going to grow for another 9 years. And the fiscal position remains same. Sorry. Now, every single thing that I've said can be verified through this website. You will find this budget book. Estimates, it's there. This is right down to the dollar how much each ministry and departments and sub-departments within each ministry will spend. So let me open up a page. Let me open a better page actually. Something that will be interesting for you. So it says over here, Fiji Police Force, Northern Division, Program 1, Activity 7. So it says personal emoluments, $6 million, $6.1 million. So the police officers in Northern Division get a total salary bill of $6.1 million. FNPF is $8,000. Acting allowance, $2,900. They're spending telecommunications, $115,000. Incidentals, $5,000. Stationery and printing, $33,000. Power supply, $140,000. Every single thing is itemized. So you're interested in knowing about Northern Division, you're interested in knowing about any police station, you're interested in knowing about any RFMF, or Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health, every single expenditure is here, which you'll find. Then of course you'll find these flyers, which we put in the Fiji Sun after the budget. Hopefully you picked it up, but you may not have. You'll find this flyer here. This sets out rural electrification. So we're spending, for example, a grid extension. You know the extension of the EFL grids. $47 million. We're spending solar home systems, $13,000. Now, so if I open this list, it has a list of all the people who will get connected to electricity. Let me find the Northern Division. So it says over here, Muani Devo Draketi Labasa, 2 applicants, the cost is $30,000. Narai Langi Village, Draketi Labasa, 35 applicants, it will cost us $278,741. Jairam and 2 others, Dongeloa Labasa, 3 applicants, cost is $42,000. Every single thing is listed here. Anybody is getting connected to electricity, the entire list is here for the whole country. You then of course have Fiji Roads Authority, where the major expenses will be. You'll be glad to know that we're spending $2 million in this financial year to start building and doing the surveys and the design work for bypass road and a new bridge in Labasa to stop all this traffic jam that you've got here in the main street. And then of course Water Authority Fiji, which village, which settlement is getting how many water tanks, what's the size of the water tank. And then of course all the government ministries, economic services sector, infrastructure, social services, and of course general administration. All of that information is available there for you to see. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.